Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance!
Hello, it's the warm-up episode 102. It's Brady and Tom. We're previewing the Burnley game, and the second tier's Justin Peach joins us. Tom, how you doing? A lot better than me messing up that intro to begin with, I'm sure.
I am great, Brady. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Oh mate, I can't. What a bad start this is. I've got a spring in my step. I was trying to say after that brilliant win on Saturday.
Well, again, we don't review the game. The lads have already done it, but God, that was just what we needed. Shot in the arm on it, Tom.
Yeah, you just invigorated everyone, didn't it? It's just really good to see. And you can see already the difference. The players are playing for someone now, and that's the main thing I'm getting from this. It's going to be interesting to see if we can stay up though with a short amount of time. So,
well, we will see. Someone who will know about that is Mr. Justin Peach. Justin, welcome back. How you doing?
Yeah, always good to be here. Yeah, doing great. Try not to fluff my lines either, just to throw in a dig there. But no, I'm yeah, really good. Very positive about Town at the moment. But I'm sure I'm going to bring you guys back down to earth, maybe with some outside view on the relegation running.
Well, I was going to say, Justin, you look a little bit unwell, actually, for those listening. Is that because you've got a touch of the Warnock fever?
The Warnock fever. I've managed to stave off it maybe a few games, few weeks, and I might catch it. I just need to be exposed to it a little bit more to, really, I don't know what the word is, be infected by it.
Well, I'm going to ask you questions. I'm going to be serious because you talked on your pod about Warnock providing those immeasurables in management, the things we don't see. Do you think this is a good appointment for Town, given the situation they're in?
Given the situation, yes. They're in a desperate situation, and in desperate situations call for very desperate times. So bringing in a man who is a specialist in eking the very small percentiles out of individuals is the absolute need for Huddersfield. Make no mistake about it. Huddersfield have been poor all season. They've probably been poorly coached to some extent by inexperienced coaches. That's not the players' faults. That is down to the hierarchy and the coaches that were employed by the club. But Neil Warnock knows how to deal with these situations. He's the most experienced man probably in EFL history, not only in age, but also just the amount of games he's managed. So yeah, certainly a desperate situation, calls for a very desperate attempt to coax a 74-year-old man out of retirement. And I think that's the key thing here is, he's going to come in and he's going to bring a lot of positivity. And as I mentioned already, the immeasurables are really important in this situation. Blackpool have tried to omit McCarthy, not quite paying off so far, and we'll see in a few games' time whether it's going to be the same for Huddersfield.
We will indeed. Well, we'll come on to that. So before we get stuck into what is a huge game on paper in terms of the opponents and how well they're playing, I caught up with Jamie Raynor, so from BBC Radio Leeds. He was actually at Warnock's first press conference on Thursday. A lot of good quotes from that. But yeah, Jamie was actually there and got to chat to the man himself. So here's what he had to say when I caught up with him earlier. Hi, Jamie. Thanks for chatting to us. So you were at Neil Warnock's first press conference last week. Tell us what that was like to chat to the Town boss, and what was the atmosphere at the presser like?
Yeah, so it was great to chat with Neil Warnock, actually, for the first time in my career. And yeah, I must admit it was probably a little milestone for me to have spoken with him. I didn't think I'd ever get the opportunity to. So when I was asked to go along last Thursday, it was a feeling of nerves, maybe a little bit, and excitement, probably anticipation, really, just not knowing really what to expect from him, despite all the videos that you see on social media and how warm he is as an individual. To actually speak with him face to face in person was probably a little bit daunting, truth be told, but it was a real joy once the actual press conference got underway. And for, I think, the rest of the media in that room awaiting Neil Warnock's arrival, there was a real excitement about what he was going to say, because he's always a story. No matter what he says, whatever he comes out with, people just seem to listen, whether it's football or not football. He's always got a great story to tell. And I think there was just an excitement and a buzz about him coming back into football management. Of course, there's a further story to that, in the sense that, of course, he's coming back to Huddersfield Town as well for the first time in 28 years. But with the task and the challenge that lies ahead, if ever there was a manager that was going to be able to drag Town out of this situation, it was Neil Warnock. So I think everybody was just really looking forward to hearing what he had to say. And I think that whole mood lift was just needed at the football club. And you could sense that even within the first 5 minutes of arriving at the training ground.
Was there anything in the press conference that stood out for you?
Well, I think what was very notable was his charm, his way with a crowd, with an audience. It felt like an evening with, after just 5 minutes, despite some pressing, and rightly so, pressing football questions that needed to be answered by him, because we all wanted to know really what he's made of Town this season, what he feels he can bring to the table. But I think it was his relaxed nature that really stood out, his ability to just take the pressure off the situation. And naturally so, it is such a high pressure situation that Huddersfield Town find themselves in coming into the final third of the season. But I think that nothing to lose mentality and approach from Warnock, because I think it's fair to say he probably doesn't have anything to lose from taking this job on, will actually rub off on the staff at the football club, importantly the players and the technical staff as well. And I think there is a genuine belief that they can do it. And obviously that's furthered by the fact that they got that very crucial win on Saturday against Birmingham. But I think it was a definite belief in his own abilities, in his own experience as well. He made reference to that as well, that yes, he might now be the oldest manager in the English Football League at 74 years of age. But with that comes a great deal of know-how and experience to get teams out of this position. He's done it before, and there's nothing to say that he can't do it again.
Compared to previous boss Mark Fotheringham, Neil Warnock has had a much more positive relationship with the media, given his history and his achievements. Do you think that relationship will benefit the club for the rest of the season in terms of narrative?
Quite simply, yes, I do. I think it will have a positive impact because of how he knows, because of his know-how, of how to navigate through narratives. And I hope that makes sense because of his experience. He knows exactly what to say and who to say it to and when and at the right time. And you sense that already. When he came in, he was very relaxed, as I've said. But there were stories about him being at a jazz club in New York during the Stoke defeat, that it was a far better watch for him that evening than actually sitting through the pain of the 90 minutes at the Bet365 Stadium, which I think many Town fans listening to the podcast this evening would agree. But that relationship is crucial. And if we were to compare that directly with Mark Fotheringham, I think it's probably one of the biggest differentials, because Mark Fotheringham was very new to the top job in management. Of course, it was his first opportunity in the head coach role at a football club. And with that comes the media commitments. And it was certainly an area that I think Mark Fotheringham, despite how polite and pleasant he was, and at times he came out with some words that you really believed in and I think made sense. But with that came a lot of doubt, a lot of speculation about what he was saying and why he was saying it, Mark Fotheringham. And also, I think, and I say this with the utmost respect, but a lot of people didn't really take him seriously. With Neil Warnock, you know exactly where you stand, whether you're a journalist, whether you're a player, whether you're a supporter, you know exactly where you stand. And that is so crucial. Communication is key. And I think that comes back down to the experience that he's had in football management for so many, many years, and how many games he's racked up as a manager and first team coach at the highest level. So I think that will play a massive part in the narrative, keeping expectations where they should be for the fans, and not trying to pull the wool over their eyes, to be honest with you. I think straight talking goes a long way in football, and we know that Neil Warnock can do that.
We talked on the radio last week about how from the outside Warnock's arrival has changed the mood around the club. Have you noticed a more upbeat atmosphere from interactions with the fans, and just how crucial is this positivity going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I mentioned it earlier, you know, the mood had certainly lifted in the press conference. Just looking at the people that work at the football club, there were smiles on faces. I mean, it's as simple as that. It's an infectious feeling that he can give you, Neil Warnock, whether you're as I say, journalist, player or supporter. And I think that positive feeling can go a long way in lifting the whole mood of the football club. And he referenced the fans, and rightly so much in that press conference before the Birmingham game, because he knows how much the team will need the support of the fans. And I think, you guys will tell me better, the atmosphere on Saturday at the John Smiths was as good as it's been all season, I've been told. And that's what Neil Warnock can do. That's the effect that he can have. And, it's an old cliche in football, but, the 12th man goes a long way. And I think Neil Warnock and his approach really builds on that 12th man. He really tries to play the pantomime villain for the opposition side, and it's working the fans in your favour. And look, they need that collective feel. If they're going to do this, if they're going to stay up, then they need everybody with them, and they need all the supporters with them. And he recognises that straight away. He knows that from his previous spell in charge, and it will suit him right this time round as well. So, yeah, I think it will have a positive impact. I think it will be crucial. I think the supporters will have a big part to play, and let's just see if they can do it. They've got off to a good start. Burnley next. That's going to be so difficult. Top of the table, flying our Burnley, and he was very much full of praise, shall we say, towards Vincent Kompany and the work that he's done at Burnley. But wouldn't it just be Neil Warnock to go to Turf Moor and get something out of that game?
Okay, so we heard from Jamie there. It appears Warnock does have everyone under his spell, particularly in press conferences. So let's talk about the game on Saturday. So Huddersfield Town, they travelled to tabletop in Burnley, who were 73 points in the league, in first place, 12 points ahead of second place Sheffield United. Burnley have lost just 2 games in the league this season, the last of which was a 5-2 defeat at Bramall Lane to the Blades back in November. They're unbeaten at home in the league this season, and they have 9 home wins in their last 10 matches. However, they did draw last night to Millwall, so take the positives. Tom, as free hits go, this has got to be the textbook definition, right?
Yeah, as it's going to be really interesting. I think I'm not going on Saturday, but I know a lot of my mates off the back. The thing that he's brought is the positivity, because a lot of people that I know literally left Saturday, got on their phones and booked tickets to Burnley. And I think Town fans are going to turn up not expecting a win, but already people are just there thinking, oh, but imagine if we got that, a draw or a win, a little sneaky win or something there. And it's amazing what this man has kind of done coming into town and just made everyone have a bit of hope again. And that's the main thing for me. It's going to be so difficult, this game, though. They are absolutely insane. They could be possibly the best championship side that I have seen in my lifetime, I think. I'm trying to think of, we've been in the championship for quite a while now, Brady, but whenever I've watched Burnley, they've looked just absolutely class. Even the other night, I watched the one against Watford, and they were all saying they didn't even play that well. And I was still thinking, blooming it, though. If that's you on a bad day, bloody hell. Different class.
Well, I can't remember who it was that tweeted, but Burnley obviously signed a 7 million striker in January with their, when they've come down from the Premier League. And who did we sign? Tommy Elphick on free, and Reece Brown from Forest Green Rovers. Anyway, Justin quite rightly, Tom's, touched on there how good Burnley are. No one's expecting Town to get a result at Turf Moor, but you've covered Burnley a lot this season on the second pod. Why are they such a good side?
It's down to how well coached they've been by Vincent Kompany. They've taken me by surprise. I think that first game was against you guys, wasn't it? First day of the season. And I was just completely taken aback by how good they were with the ball, how progressive they were in possession. Nothing like we've seen Burnley play before. I think Eddie Howe tried it 10 years ago and it fell very flat, and he ended up leaving after 18 months back to Bournemouth. But Vincent Kompany's just got them drilled down to a T. And I don't think it's necessarily down to individual quality, because these players have been plucked from, a lot of them are quite young. They've been plucked from sort of Belgium, France, etc., different leagues and different countries. So that's been a job in itself in trying to make that a cohesive group. And Vincent Kompany's done that, and he's got them playing to his style of play. And it's so much better than what they were putting out at Anderlecht as well, because at Anderlecht he struggled to really put together a side that was consistent in the amount of chances they were creating, and sustaining a title challenge and whatnot. So yeah, what he's done at Burnley this season has just been remarkable, and I think that's the key for Burnley, is his ability to not wane too far away from his style of play and his philosophy. You look at Russell Martin; he's exactly the same. But Swansea, I know there's a massive difference in quality of player, but Swansea, they struggle. Burnley haven't, and they've done it without a senior centre half as well all season. I think the average age of the back four has been sort of 23, 24. Charlie Taylor's been out the side as well. So it's just been remarkable. And like Tom said, it's hard to see a much better side at Championship level in my lifetime as well. The only one that I can beat it is that Reading side in 2005-06 when he set the points record. So yeah, it's just been remarkable, taking me by surprise, and quite rightly, quite deservedly, top of the league.
And Burnley could actually beat that points record that you're talking about if they're to win most of their games in hand. Which, I mean, to be honest, it's hard to see them not doing that. But Justin, can you see Huddersfield getting anything out of this? We know Warnock. Some people don't like his style of football, but he gets results, and that's maybe why Towns have brought him in. But can you see anything on Saturday? Any positivity for us? I
think potentially, yeah, but it mainly lends to perhaps the drop-off in form for Burnley. I know they're still unbeaten, but the last 3 games, they've not been their usual selves. They weren't, I wouldn't have said they were the better side against Millwall. I thought Millwall maybe edged the game. And then going back to the weekend, Luton were very, very good. It was just that difference in quality in the early goal from Burnley or the goal from Burnley. That was a difference. And then Watford, again, not quite at the usual standards. So it's probably a good time to play Burnley. That I think it's natural for teams to drop off slightly throughout seasons, no matter how good you are, no matter how consistent you are. And Burnley are probably hitting that spell now. They've rotated their team a little bit in recent weeks. And companies just trying to sort of, I imagine, improve those standards to a point where they were sort of early mid-Jan. So it's a good time to play them. But I think the key thing for Huddersfield is just get a performance, use that as momentum rather than focusing on a result. But that being said, it's a Neil Warnock side. They're going to go away as underdogs, and that suits them down to a T. That suits Neil Warnock down to a T. So maybe I can see a result, but you've got to catch Burnley on a bad day to do it.
Mm. And Tom, come on, we're both Town fans here. Have you got that little, we know how it starts, whatever has happened on Saturday, you're like, oh, no, I don't think we'll beat them. And then by the time it gets to Saturday, you're like, do you know what? I think we've got a chance. Are you at that point yet, Tom?
Brady, that's football, isn't it? There's no point following the team if you don't turn up on a Saturday thinking, yeah, we might win here today. And you never know, do you? It's like they're a good team, but they're not unbeatable. Do you know what I mean? They've got to have a blip at some point. And like Justin said, if this is kind of their spell, maybe where they're on a little bit of a wobble, we might be playing them at a perfect time, and we might be the first team to beat them at home this season. Like a cheeky 1-0 scrappy. They have it might be like QPR where we've had 30 odd shots against us, but we still somehow come away with 3 points, Brady. You never know, do you?
Scenes, as the kids would say, if that happens. Do you know what? It could be, clip this because, we might lose 4-0 at the weekend, but it feels like a bit like Sean Dyche when he was his first game with Everton and Arsenal, top of the table Arsenal. Don't know. Feel like Warnock will stifle them, but it's whether we can hold firm. But Tom, you'll probably know a little bit more than me because you caught up with one of the lads from the Burnley podcast, didn't you?
Yeah, I caught up with Joe from Turfcast, and we discussed all things Burnley and how he's seen the season going.
We've lost to a pub side. We've literally lost to a pub side.
Hi, mate. Thanks for joining us on the podcast. So, how's your season going?
Yeah, well, obviously really fantastic, isn't it? Obviously running away with the league, looking like we're going to actually win the league as well now. I've been pretty confident we're going up for about 6 to 8 weeks now, ever since we came back from the World Cup, and we're just in sensational form. Just every week we just seem to extend our lead at the top. And we won, I think we won 10 games in a row. Then we drew against Watford, then we beat Luton, and then of course we drew last time out against Millwall. So we're unbeaten in 13, won 11 of them, So, it's a very, very good time to be a Claret at the minute. Obviously, I remember at the end of last season when we were relegated, it were all doom and gloom as you'd expect on the socials, but it couldn't be any different now. It's a really, really good place to be, and if anything, the relegation's benefited us, to be honest. It's allowed us to completely rebuild, completely change everything about the football club. Like, really, of course, we've changed the manager, we've changed the style of play, like completely changed it. Obviously, we were known as this long ball, hoofball team, and anti-football was the term that people had used it as. Whereas now with this free-flowing attacking team that have, I think we've won 3-0 about 5-6 times. Some of these games it should have been 4 or 5. Disappointed that some of them weren't, because we know we absolutely battered Blackburn. It could have easily been 4 or 5. I would have really enjoyed that, and beating Preston as well. That could have easily been 6. So, it's been a very, very, very good season. Let's just put it that way.
Who's a standout player for you so far?
It's a tough one, that one, really, because we've all done well. All the players have done well. Obviously, a lot of them, as I've just mentioned, we've changed the style of play, and a lot of them have come in the summer. So the likes of Anas Aurori's been fantastic. I think he's probably my favourite player at the minute, especially of the lads that we brought in the summer. But then you've got Nathan Teller as well, who's so fast. It's technically a bit of a cheat code with how fast he is, and he's got a brilliant touch as well. So when he's running at speed and the ball's coming at him, he can still bring it down. It's just sensational to see. How Southampton don't think he's good enough for the Premier League, I do not know. But hopefully we find out next season that he is. Then you've got the centre-backs who, luckily for you, will be injured. Then you've got Taylor Harwood-Bellis and Jordan Bayer, who have been fantastic, both injured for this week. But we have had 2 very good deputies coming in Ekdal and Amin. So there's been a few. Benson's been good, but he's another one that's injured. But I say right now, like in this particular moment in time, weirdly, after waxing lyrical about our new style of play and all these amazing new attacking free-flowing footballers we have, right now it's probably Ashley Barnes, which is a bizarre one, because at the start of the season, a lot of Burnley fans are going, he's clearly past it, maybe it's his last year, and we can have him as backup, and then just let him go in the summer. But since Jay Rodriguez got injured, who's another one that's going to be missing this weekend, he's stepped up to the plate. He's been fantastic as Ash. He scored 2 goals against Blackburn, and that they're his first goals of the season. It kind of kick-started his season, really, and he's been doing very, very well. Not got as many goals as some of the others, but it's just everything about him, like he's winning headers and holding play up and things like that, and just being a general shithouse, and we absolutely love him at Burnley. So right now it's actually Ashley Barnes, but we've got quality all over the pitch, honestly, we really, really do.
And what's your score prediction against Town?
Well, to be honest, I'm a little bit gutted you got rid of your old manager. I was expecting, this could be one of the games where it could be 4 or 5, and we actually put a team to the sword rather than just winning 3-0. Although having said that, in that kind of game, we do tend to just sit off after 3-0. Which can be frustrating, but I do think Warnock's going to turn it into a slog. I think he'll sit back. I think he'll try and frustrate us, and we have struggled to break teams down. Sometimes when teams do that, there's other times when we have just pushed them aside and won 3-0. So it depends on the look of the draw, really. I mean, I know we drew 1-1 last time out against Millwall, but we had like 3 or 4 chances in the first half and hit the post in the second as well. Any of them goes in, it's a different game, and we win that quite comfortably as well. Watford, who did frustrate us quite a lot recently and did manage to get the draw, they were very, very well organised. And whether or not you have the players that can be as organised as them, I'm not sure. But I'm pretty certain Warnock will turn it into an absolute slog. But I still think we'll have enough to beat Huddersfield, with the greatest respect. Obviously, you're not having a great season. So yeah, I think Burnley will win 2-0.
Thank you. Bye.
There we go. Cheers, Joe, for that. Nice one.
And Tom, you spoke to him first part of the season. I'm guessing he was in a bit more of a jovial mood than he was when you spoke to him back in August.
Yeah, I'm trying to think back what he was. I feel like when I spoke to him back in August, he was excited, but I don't think he was not expecting this kind of thing. I think they were all a bit tentative about Company, and maybe looking at Anderlecht maybe, and thinking, can he come into Championship and do this? And I mean, it's actually, look, they've spent money, they've brought real good quality in, but you've still got to coach the side, and I'm surprised as well that he's doing such a good job, to be fair.
Justin, I know other fans on your podcast have said they're a bit, parachute payments FC, and you've kind of railed against that. Again, do you kind of agree with Tom? Yes, they obviously have that financial advantage, but it's just about the coaching as well.
Yeah, they do have a financial advantage. I think any team that comes down from the Premier League has that cushion of being able to spend, not freely, but they just have that contingency the following season. I think that's the key thing is the impact on the following season. So if Burnley weren't to get promoted, they've recruited well this season. They've spent a lot of money this season, but it's next season they'd probably strip it back and not do it. Bournemouth did it the season they came down, obviously. Didn't recruit massively, kept hold of some key players and sold a few players, and that sort of bankrolled them. So it does add that parachute, that cushion. But at the same time, their net spend is ridiculous. They sold a lot of their squad. They needed to recruit and recruit quite heavily. But I think the way they've done it is quite shrewdly. They've mainly spent money on players that are below 25 years old. They're going to add value. They're going to develop. And I think that's the key thing here is they've spent what they've brought in rather than spending and relying on those parachute payments. So if Burnley were to stay down, then maybe we can call them parachute payments FC because they might continue spending next season, but it's unlikely to happen. So I think it's unfair to coin them that sort of team, because other teams have done it. Fulham, for example, last season relied heavily on those parachute payments because they were able to retain the players like Mitrovic on 60 grand a week contracts. Burnley haven't been able to do that. They've sold those high value players and brought in incredibly well from it. So yeah, quite unfair to call them parachute payment FC, but it is obviously with the caveat that money is there as a contingency if they need it.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, we've talked a lot about Burnley, so why don't we take a break and then we'll come back and talk about Neil Warnock's Barmy Army. Okay, we're back. Tom, I thought you were going to chant as we were going into the break there, but never mind. Let's get stuck in. It's time for the mailbag.
You've got mail.
So, Justin, you may have seen we've got a lot of questions about you and your podcast. You and your podcast saying things about Huddersfield and not very nice things. So, quite a few questions. I had to filter some out. You'll be interested to hear. But Khan Lister asks, why does your pod hate us so much? Do you hate us, Justin? I mean, you've been on this, 5 or 6 times, so you must hate Huddersfield, surely. Yeah,
absolutely. We hate every team north of Derbyshire. It's just a natural north-south divide. That's just what it is. No, we don't hate Huddersfield. I think the reason why it comes across as we do is there's not really been much positive chatter around Huddersfield this season. I think last season I thought we were quite complimentary of Huddersfield, especially in that second half of the season. And their run to the playoffs, because it was quite remarkable how they did it. I wouldn't have considered Huddersfield favourites throughout that, and that's mainly down to their budget similar to Luton. It's quite remarkable the job that Corbrand did. So I just think the lack of positivity around the football club this season, and it's happened with a lot of football clubs that are really not on hard times, but everything's going against them. Derby fans accused of as an agenda, and I'm a Derby fan myself, so it's quite weird hearing that. But same with Birmingham City fans. Just when clubs aren't in the right place, we just point it out. We're just very honest about it. And again, going back to that performance and win on Saturday, yes, it's great, but there were still massive issues that need to be resolved, and they will get resolved. But we just got to assess what's in front of us, and that's what we saw. But we don't hate Huddersfield. We don't hate any club. We're very non-biased. I think I'd say comes across as that not being the case, but it's just honest opinion. That's what it is.
Well, even if as a Derby fan, you must hate Forest, surely. I mean, that'd be welcome on this pod, given what happened.
It is a tribal hate, but it's again, on the pod, it's a very serious business. Not hate, but certainly I'll be as I don't know what the word is, down the middle and straight face as I possibly can.
Very, very diplomatic. Well done, sir. We got a question from Al Palpu, he says, I don't know, I can cut this if it's not, but it was a bit weird. I'm assuming I'm missing out on some context here, but he asked you if you like peanut butter. Do you know anything about
that? No, not a clue. I do like peanut butter. It's great for smoothies. It's great for sandwiches and toast. It's a very versatile spread. Got a lot of time for it. Yeah.
I thought that was going to be an inside joke or something.
No,
but,
it's not Scooby.
Okay. Well, you might have secured yourself. Look forward to the next ad when you've got a peanut butter.
Fingers crossed.
Deal. There we go. Sold it quite well. Okay, we've got another one again about the hate. Can you confirm? Joanne asks, did Ryan used to date a Huddersfield girl who broke his heart because he never has a kind word for us? Did Ryan date anyone from Huddersfield?
Not that I know of. Mainly Southerners actually. It might be a thing. It might just be anti-Northern. But yeah, it's hard to say. Ryan's very opinionated. He's also very stubborn. I don't think he'll disagree with me on that. And whilst he likes an opinion like we all do, I just think perhaps it's because it's his honest opinion and it's not necessarily a positive one that people take offence to it. And that's normal. That's tribalism. That's football. Football fans don't want you speaking ill of their football clubs, even if you speak ill of your football club yourself. It's just that sort of big brother mentality. Like, I can call my big brother, you know what, but you can't. That sort of thing.
Yeah, fair. Well, we got another question, but then I'm going to throw in one of my own questions here. Actually, in fact, I'll do that now, and then I'll ask Marcos because that's actually nice. You've done well being grilled about your so-called hatred for Huddersfield. But Justin, I will ask you. So this comes from Brady Frost, good guy I've heard. So from the outside perspective, obviously we're not a big fan of Carlos, given how he left in short notice. Although we can understand the reasons. I suppose it's like a really big answer, but do you think we're right to blame Carlos? Do you think, is that the reason we're doing so bad? I know there's other things, but I'm kind of interested to get your take on the season as a whole. I know that's probably going to be like half an hour, but you could, briefly.
I think it's unfair to hate him because you've seen how hindsight's great, but you've seen how the season's progressed. I wouldn't want to manage in those circumstances. I would feel let down by the board that not being able to build upon a very, very good end to the season. I thought Carlos Corberán more than delivered what he needed to in getting Huddersfield to a playoff final, and they were two really poor decisions away from the Premier League. It's the fine margin. At that point, for me, I thought the board should have had maybe a frank conversation or a bit of transparency with the club or the fans about what the direction of the club is going in. And it's certainly not one that aligns with Carlos Corberán's plans. And I think that's fair for him to then leave. Because as I say, if Corberán's got one idea of where he wants to take Huddersfield and there's no money going into doing that, what's his motivation for staying? It's, football, especially someone like Carlos Corberán, who really buys into projects. He comes across as someone who really buys into projects. I just think he was let down by the board, and we've seen that transpire over the next sort of 6 or 7 months to now that the football club's had to. I said it already in this episode. The football club has had to coax a 74-year-old man out of retirement to save the season. It's an incredibly desperate situation, and plasters over really, timeline of really bad decision making by those higher up in the board, which is why we said it on the podcast ourselves that we feel that Warnock's a bit of a get out of jail free card because it masks the really bad decision making and strategy put down by those at the top of the club.
And I'll go across to certified booing expert Tom Bradshaw. Tom, would you still boo Carlos when we play him?
Yeah, I'd boo Carlos still. He let me down this year. I mean, I know Justin's been very sensible there, but I still think the amount of time he left before the season started, just a bit out of order for me, that was, I think.
And that's what you call balance. So there you go. Okay. Marcus J, he asks, seeing as everyone is hiring ex-Huddersfield Town managers, who is most likely to take the QPR hot seat? Now, obviously, QPR have got Gareth Ainsworth. But I thought we could take Marco's question and run with it a little bit and just, let's pick an ex-Huddersfield Town manager and pick a club they might be at. So I had a little look for you guys. There's 3 I can see who are available: Danny Cowley, Mark Hudson, and Steve Bruce. Simon Grayson was shouted by listeners, but he's an Indian Super League side, Bengaluru FC. So that's well out the window. He won't come back. So Tom, I'll let you go first. Any of those 3, and just give me a random club or where you could see him pitching at.
Mark Hudson at someone like Crawley or Stevenage or Morecambe. Do you know what I mean? I think if Mark Hudson's going to get back into football, it'll be a bit further down the ladder, I think. But that was such a tough gig he had there. He's basically had what Schofield had. He got thrown into the deep end with a club that's in a bit of a bad situation, and almost then the blame lays on you there. So, I'd love to see Mark Hudson back in the job, and Danny Cowley will pick up a job all day long in League One. Do you know what I mean? I think any clubs would happily take the Cowley brothers.
Yeah, very, very logical. Justin, any interesting shouts? I think part of me thinks, I feel like one club near us, if they have to set their manager, might panic and give him a call.
Yeah, again, Steve Bruce is one of those desperate situations type calls, isn't he? I think Danny Cowley for a Blackpool team getting relegated from the Championship this season, whether it be you guys, maybe not Wigan, obviously not Rotherham either because they got Matt Taylor, but yeah, certainly a Blackpool would suit him. I still think I said it to you a couple of weeks ago, didn't I, Brady? That I think Danny Cowley would now be a very good fit for Huddersfield, strangely. But yeah, Steve Bruce. I'm trying to throw a team out there. I don't know. I think his ties are burnt pretty much every club. Maybe a Birmingham City if they decide to kick the can on John Eustace unfairly. I would say. But yeah, I think Steve Bruce is done. He should just be touring the West Indies watching cricket for me.
Well, yeah, I think if Steve Bruce took another job, I think it might be like Australia or something like that. Could just go for the money and the sun, didn't watch the cricket. And to be fair, can you blame him? I'd probably do that. Yeah, Danny Cowley's a good shot for Blackpool, actually, if they got relegated. I think maybe a League One team might take him. Don't know who. Going to randomly guess. I don't really know who's in League One. Should probably know because we're a good chance we're going to be there next season. Let's say, I don't know. I actually don't know. Bradford, because that'll just be funny, won't it? Mark Hughes goes. So there we go. Let's see what happens. I bet we're all going to be wrong. Okay, before we go into You on the Boss, I want to talk a little bit about the relegation run-in. So, Justin, what do you think of, to be honest, Tom's in the same chat as me. Yes, we have WhatsApp chats. Oh, it's fun. We keep umming and ahhing. So, on Friday when Cardiff, scored late last minute to win, people were like, right, we're done. We'll win against Birmingham. People are like, we're staying up. Results last night, we're done. How do you see it going for Huddersfield?
Yeah, it's a really difficult one to answer because it generally is incredibly tight this season, and we've changed our minds several times on the podcast. For me, Rotherham, I would say Rotherham are probably one of the more likely ones to go down. Wigan as well. I know we've put out a clip this week saying I fancy Wigan to stay up, and I do. I think Sean Maloney, out of all the teams down in that bottom 5, has done the best job because he fixed all of their issues. There's only one big issue remaining, and that's scoring goals, and that's the thing that's going to pull them into that bottom 3 is not scoring goals. And Cardiff performances have really started to lift. They've not been terrible all season, strangely. Again, it's just putting the ball in the back of the net, but they're now creating chances on the regular. And I do expect them to pull away from that bottom 4 or that bottom 5 points wise anyway. With Huddersfield, it's so difficult because of the squad. I don't fully believe in the squad yet. I've not had anything in front of me that suggests that. Neil Warnock's probably the only factor, and it's depending on whether he's still got that magic dust, any magic dust left in his being to pull them out. But otherwise, it's going to go down to the wire. Blackpool haven't really impressed me under Mick McCarthy yet. There've been some good performances going forward, but there's still a shambles at the back. And that's the difference with Wigan, for example. They fixed their issues. Blackpool haven't. So I think Cardiff are the best set team to go to stay up at the moment. Rotherham, a little bit inconsistent. So I think it's if Warnock can get a run of games going, they could pull away, because there are teams at the moment that are very, very poor.
Do you think, well, I'm sure you will agree with this, but do you think Huddersfield Chances are so much greater with Warnock in? And like you say, if you're not been impressed by McCarthy, I suppose Warnock has that experience, been there and done it.
I would say Warnock's the deciding factor. He could be the key difference, because you look at Wigan's squad, a lot of League One standard players in there. Might be quite harsh, but they are bottom of the table. Blackpool have got so much quality in that final third. Josh Bowler, Morgan Rogers, Jerry Yates has been good in parts this season. They've got some really, really good players, but they're not knitting it all together. Whereas Huddersfield, there are some good individuals, not as many as Blackpool, and maybe not as many as Rotherham. But Warnock adds that little bit extra that none of those teams have. I don't think Mick McCarthy's still got it. I said that before. So I think Warnock's the big factor here, and it's just dependent on whether he's got the energy to do it. I think he does, but it's, I don't know how many managers over the age of 70 have been a success in football. It's, maybe Roy Hodgson. It's quite a hard category to assess.
Mm. Tom, how are you feeling about it? I know we're probably going to talk week to week, but how are you feeling about it following that win?
So I'd like to get your thoughts on this, Justin. So I mean, I do this every season, even if we're in mid-table. It's like I do that bloody, do you know that predictor where you put the scores in yourself and have a look where things could change and stuff. And when I've done it, I'm getting whoever's going down. The team that's staying up are probably on about 46, 47 points, and then 3 below 45-ish. Do you think that's kind of the target? Do you think that sounds right?
It's a good question. I mean, you've got Cardiff on 35, so they're only 3 wins away from that, and I think I can see that. Or 3 or so wins away from that, and I can see them pulling that off. Huddersfield and Rotherham. I mean, Rotherham have struggled. They've only won 7 games, so have Blackpool and Wigan. So I think you're quite right, Tom. I think 45, 46 points is that target. That's going to keep a team up, because Rotherham, Huddersfield, Blackpool, Wigan, they're not, they just haven't won enough games, whereas Cardiff are starting to pick up. So, yeah, that is the, quite rightly, the key points target. It's quite a big one this year as well. I don't think it was that significant last season, maybe 41 points, but yeah. It's a lot of wins for those teams down there, and a big pickup in form, which isn't necessarily easy. They need that manager bounce quite early.
Yeah, 5 more wins then.
5 more wins. Tom, you passed that straight to Justin. I asked you what you're feeling.
Oh, what am I feeling? Oh, yeah. I think we're going to do it, Brady.
There you go. That's what I want to hear. Need that positivity. As Tom Lee said this week, you think it's the Coventry games and the Bristol City games, but Sheffield United will probably be on the piss and be promoted by the time we play them. So here's hoping. Cool. Well, we will be here for the relegation run-in, I'm sure. But yeah, if we stay up, got a feeling, Tom. It's going to be like the Barnsley 2012 vibes.
Well, I was just thinking that, and that was a very high points tally. I feel like we had to stay up on 46, 47 that season. That's the season we sent Peterborough down on it. So that's always good.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be fair, talking myself into it, last game, Reading at home, couldn't pick a better game, in my opinion. They'll have naught to play for, unless they slide. But we will see. Okay, anyway, we'll come back to the Burnley game, shall we? Because it's time for You're the Boss. So how will we line up the teams? So Huddersfield with the Warn Dog, I'm going to call him, or as Johnny from the Borough Breakdown has now let us use. Thank you, Johnny. Hashtag horny for Warney. So Warnock had 3-5-2. So he had Bila Kapic in goal, Tom Lees, Hellick, and Matt Loughton in a back 3. And then his 5 was David Kasumu, Jack Redoni, Jonathan Hogg, Etienne Kamara, Jaheim Headley, Joseph Hungbo, and Daniel Ward. Absolutely some huge performances. Kasumu got a big shout out for me in that game. But Tom, I'll come to you first. looks like Loughton's going to miss this game. So, is there any changes you'd make, or would you just make the one change there and try and keep it as the same as possible?
Brady, I don't know, because I'm not tactic. I don't know what I'd do. I'd probably
Why do we do this section then if you don't know?
I'd probably go as defensive as possible. I'd be playing
Right.
from point here. And I guess actually on Saturday that team was very nicely. Kasumu's great, isn't it? Because he gives you so much energy. I probably would keep it very similar. I don't know who you'd bring in though. I guess you're probably gonna have to bring in. Is Boyley back, or has he still got one more game?
No, I think he'd be free, but Reg as well. You don't
Reg,
want Big Boyley.
Boyley, Pearson is injured. I'm assuming still.
Yeah, seems like it. Although Wardy was meant to be injured for weeks, as was Hellick, and they were straight back in.
Pearson, Lees, and Hellick back just brings us so much confidence, that back line. Pearson's going to fucking love playing for Warnock, innit? So, yeah, I mean, I probably would keep it the same. Hope Pearson can slip in there where Loughton is. And if not, I mean, I guess I'd probably put Ruffles in just because he's played more games than Reg. I probably wouldn't be putting Reg in against Burnley. Even though he played really well at the start of the season, but I just don't think he'd be match fit.
Bit rusty. Yeah, bit rusty. Yeah, I mean, I had put Reg in and swapped Lees to the left, but yeah, you make a good point about Ruffles. And to be fair, Ruffles hasn't been the best this season, but I actually thought he came on and did all right against Birmingham. So who knows? Yeah, I think you've twisted my arm. I'll go for Ruffles in the back three. Justin, any changes you'd make? Obviously, like you say, you're not a big fan of Town's squad. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see if you do make any changes.
I think keeping it as close to that win, that lineup, that win against Birmingham is the best thing. I think continuity is important. I also think that Burnley aren't going to barrage you long balls, so you can get away with maybe having a more quicker, technically gifted player than maybe Boyle in the back three. But obviously, if Pearson's fit, he's got to start. He's by far, I mean, maybe other than Heelick, he's by far the best centre half at the club. So yeah, I'd keep it as close to that. I've not seen enough from Mike Horn. Obviously, if Danny Ward's not going to be quite fit enough, I know you mentioned that he was supposed to be injured last week, but if he's not quite fit enough, then maybe Waghorn comes in. But other than that, I would keep it the same. I thought Hungbo was fantastic. Headley was brilliant. And Kamara and Kasumu were both fantastic as well against Birmingham City. So you've got to build on those performances, not chop and change it. Neil Warnock's not one of those types who chops and changes. So he'll keep that as similar as possible to that Birmingham win.
And you touched on Waghorn there. I know it's a few years ago, but it was at Derby. Like, do you think Warnock could get anything out of him? Is he that type of player?
It's a weird one. It's a weird one with Waghorn. I've seen him be absolutely brilliant. I've seen him be absolutely terrible. Under Frank Lampard, he was good in parts, and Frank Lampard was a good manager. So maybe Warnock would be the type of manager who gets a lot out of him. But Waghorn's not played a lot of games over the past 2 years, been quite injured. And that maybe is impacting him massively, and perhaps he's quite lucky to still be playing Championship football. Might sound harsh, but his career's dropped off massively since that final season at Derby. But then again, Warnock's done this before. You look at the likes of Sol Bamba, for example, becoming an absolute colossus at the age of sort of 33, 34 under him. So you've got the ability to get a lot out of players, and that could be a massive difference between now and the end of the season. Those players that have been put, even Anthony Nokia, he's not had a type of manager that is a very good man manager since Chris Hughton. So it could also get more out of him because, again, he's left a lot to be desired in Huddersfield shirt so far.
He did his best to get Birmingham an equaliser on Saturday knockout. I was quite surprised because he's been all right in spells, but yeah, we'll see. So, boys, we'll talk about the match prediction and what we're thinking for the score. Tom, I'll come to you first.
Yeah, I don't know. My heart says 1-0. My head says I think we might lose this game, potentially 2-0, 1-0. But it'd be like one of those, like Justin says, I think the most important thing we see is a performance here, and if we can come away from Saturday thinking, you know what, we've given these lot of game, basically all we have to do now is perform like that for the rest of the season, and we'll be fine. Because Birmingham was a great win, but there was still bits where it was, and I mean, he literally had 2 days anyway, so it was never going to be perfect. So yeah, I think the main thing on Saturday is we come away thinking, yeah, if we keep this performance levels up, we're going to stay up. So all right, I'll go with my heart though, Brady. I'll go 1-1.
Nice.
And Jack Rudoni will score his first Town goal.
Maybe that's it. We've been saying it every pod this season, but if Rudoni gets his first, maybe he goes on that run and keeps us up. Can you imagine? That'd be great for us because we were right all along. I'm with you on this. It's about the performance for me, and I think we will see a performance that Burnley have that quality that I think is just going to edge them over. So I'm probably going to go 1-0 Burnley, and I think we'll put in a really good shift. I've got to be honest, if Lee Nichols was fit, I feel like we'd steal a point here, given you talked about that QPR performance early in the season. And that's no slight on Billy Kapic, but, he's a young lad, and I think he will be a very busy boy on Saturday. Justin, what about yourself? What's your score prediction?
It's hard to disagree with you on it, Brady. I think a 1-0 win for Burnley. I think it's going to be a really uncomfortable game for them. And it's going to be one where I think Neil Warnock would do his very best to keep the crowd quiet. And I think he'll achieve that. And I think it'll be a late Burnley goal that gets the win. It'll either be a late Burnley goal that gets the win or a very early Burnley goal. And then they just manage the game out from there. So I think, as I've said already, and as Tom alluded to, it's just about performance against Burnley. If they can carry that momentum on, should stand them in good stead, because expectations will be low going into a team that hasn't lost at home all season.
Yeah, and to be honest, like Warnock's talked about it being a free hit, maybe that will, be a bit of a relief to some players. Sorry, Tom, did you want to say something there? Okay, no, he just shook his head. Okay, that's fine. Okay, let's move on and let's finish with Quaner's question.
A few things change, but also a lot of things are still the same.
Okay, so Quaner's question this week is, what was your favourite Huddersfield Town kit? Tom, I know you'll be bang up for this because you love talking about kits. Justin, I will ask you your favourite Huddersfield Town kit. I know that's probably putting you on the spot, so I'll give you a little bit of time to think about it, but we'll talk about some listeners' responses first. So Smile a While said the superb cream / off-white 1997 away kit, the Panasonic one. Good kit that. Lee Morris just sent a picture, so I've got a handy little kit reference guide, and it was the 0304 Huddersfield Town away kit with the red and black stripes. Tom, I've had this debate before.
Yeah.
I think the away kit should always be red and black.
Agreed. That is for me. That is our best away colours. Is the red and black. I fucking love a red and black striped Town kit.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. The one that Lee sent, and that's the Admiral Prime Time, in it. Great kit. Just really simple. Those two kits, home and away, because the beauty of the red and black, it's almost inverted to the home kit, and I think that's why I like it so much. It just makes sense.
Exactly. It's simple, isn't it? What's the opposite of blue and white? Red and black. Yeah. Done. And we can pretend, if you squint really hardly, you can pretend it's AC Milan. Yeah. Sue Arthur was being horny on Maine here. She said anyone that has Christopher Schindler in it, any kit has Christopher Schindler in it. And can we blame you, Sue? Oliver says the 1992-93, the black grey Gola kit. That is a nice kit. I think you can still pick that up on eBay for the low price of £749. Because it's a beauty. Got a shout for the electric hoops kit from 92 as well, which is great. Tom, what's your favourite Town kit, man?
Oh, so I love the Pulse one. That's a one, because that's like Warney first time round. I feel like any of the Panasonic ones, absolutely beautiful, the home kits. I'm kind of only looking at home kits here, Brady. I think I'm thinking of, like I said, if it's an away kit, it's a red and black for me. Any red and black striped away kit. I've got a few of the Panasonic ones of those. Very interesting. I've got the it's very interesting what they did there. This is boring. Someone might fall asleep to this, but I've got the red and black Panasonic by Mitre, and then it's exactly the same kit, right? It is literally, I've got two of them, exactly the same kit, but the other one's by Pony. Really mad how, like, they must have just bought a template, and when they got a new manufacturer. Yeah, that was exciting, wasn't it? So it was that'll be in the 97, 99 and 99, 2001 kits there. Shout out to the early 2001, the only kits with the circle on, the circle badge, pretty rare. I mean, didn't really like that badge at the time, but when you think about it now, it's a bit of a collector's item. Got the 3 stars in the middle as well, interesting. But I think, Brady, and I literally was talking to my mate about this the other day. You know what my favourite kit is? I think one that I wore quite a lot. The Umbro 2011-2012 promotion season from League One with
the home kit.
Kirklees College home kit one.
Yeah,
great kit. Beautiful colour. Great memories of Peter Clark, Alan Lee. Just an absolutely awesome kit.
I did like the red away one as well with the V. I associate roads with that. No, beautiful. You're right. I do love the Panasonic ones from the late 90s. I think they're just gorgeous, those home kits. And I do have the Pony Goldie, looks like someone's urinated on a white shirt kit, but it's lovely. I quite like. I really liked the Paddy Power kits minus the sash. I think I'm not normally a big fan of the modern kits, but I thought they were really nice because this is my biggest bugbear for the Prem season. We had 2 seasons in the Prem, and the first season where we stayed up, horrendous kits. That home shirt, horrendous.
A horrible shirt.
Horrible.
The sponsor makes it a lot as well. Like 2 Prem seasons, absolute crap sponsors. A made up Chinese betting company it turned out to be, didn't it?
Yeah, no longer exists. Yeah.
Any kit with black socks, it's got to be black socks for me. It's got to be blue and white socks, black socks. Justin, this is well exciting, this, isn't it?
I was just going to say.
I do think the sponsor makes it. I like the Recorder League kits as well, just because it's quite a good little sponsor now. There you go, Brady. Kit talk.
There you go. Justin, you probably had time to Google some kits if you didn't know. Is there any town kits you like the look of?
I've been looking through them, and this might be controversial, but you've had some absolute stonking sponsors. Like Carvalhal, that is a horrendous. Derby had Just Eat for a couple of years on a really nice set of kits as well, and it's just this bright red sponsor across. It just spoils a shirt. But I'm looking at the 16-17 one, and I quite like the collar on it. The home shirt. I mean, the sponsor isn't.
That was a good kit.
Fantastic, but any shirt with a collar, I think, is well worth oozing over. And you are quite right. The red and black ones, whenever they're striped, they look great. It reminds me of the Man City kits from sort of the early 2000s. Big fan of them. I think the home 2020-21 shirt again is quite tidy. Sponsorless, really adds to it. So. Yeah, there's my 2 pence worth.
There you go. Well done, sir.
I need to ask you because look, we've delved into kit talk here. That's how trendy this podcast has become. What are your thoughts on the Derby kit this season? I think it's very weird, and the circumstance. It seems like you've played in 2 kits this year as well.
Yeah, we had. This is really crap. We didn't have shirts at the start of the season. So we had to, during pre-season, we had to use a template shirt with, it wasn't a sponsor, it was just like Pride of Derby or something. Yeah. And then the shirt that we have had this season, we didn't have a sponsor. And then we gave away a sponsor to NSPCC. But I'm very particular about shirts. I've not bought a shirt for quite a number of years because Umbro shirts for Derby have been absolutely dreadful. I miss the days of Joma and Area. I long for Hummel so badly.
I thought the template one actually looked all right, and then the actual shirt came out. Don't know about that bit in the corner. It's just a bit bit interesting.
There is, the kits. As I said, like the kits for Derby have been terrible. But there was a year we looked like stormtroopers. There was the stripes one year that Hull had as well. Just the template ones aren't great, and this year's again not fantastic. And we didn't have them; they didn't go on sale until October. That's how poor we were at one point.
Wow. Well,
I've really enjoyed that little segment there, Brady.
It's cheered you right up, isn't it? It's the welcome tonic. I knew you'd love that, so I saved that just for you. Lovely stuff. Right, okay, well, we'll probably call it there because Tom will be talking about kits for another half an hour, and I'll let him do it, but you don't have to listen, listener. Thanks to Tom and Justin for coming on. Thanks to you all for listening, and thanks to our sponsor, Magic Rock Brewing. Don't forget, you can get 10% off all online orders with the code AHTTC10. So get it used and get 10% off. Tom, anything you want to leave the town fans with before we go?
Up the town. Just go loud and proud as always on Saturday. If you know what, if you listen to the main pod, if you haven't listened to it yet, listen to it just for the song that did Danny write that?
Adam Jarrell, who does the Offensive podcast.
Absolutely brilliant. And what an impression of Dean Hoyle.
Yes, yeah, it was. I was actually listening to that at work, and I had to turn it off because I was laughing too much. So, yeah, no, do go check that out. Justin, anything you want to say to the town fans? This is where you could get in your dig and be like, haha, I do actually hate you all.
I was actually going to go the opposite. We don't hate you. I'm actually going to try and get to a home game between now and the end of the season. Just because I want to see Neil Warnock in action, so to speak. So yeah, we don't hate Huddersfield Town. We love every club in the Championship. Just don't take it so personally. That's all.
Wise words. And we'll end it there. So ta-ta for now and up the town.
So town play up, bring the car back to Huddersfield.